Chapter 1. The envelope that ruins lunch. Daisy Carpenter had been staring at the same prototype sketch for 10 minutes, and the lines were beginning to blur. Normally she could lose herself in the work. The clean geometry of a new casing design, the challenge of adapting a prototype into something manufacturable, the quiet satisfaction of solving problems no one else had noticed yet. Today, though, her attention kept drifting back to the cream-colored envelope sitting on the corner of her desk like a smug little ghost. She'd opened it that morning before leaving for work, expecting nothing more dramatic than a baby shower invitation or a birthday card. Instead, she'd found her cousin's wedding invitation, embossed with gold lettering and decorated with tiny roses. It was beautiful, tasteful, and absolutely catastrophic. She was expected to bring her +1, her fictional +1, her fictional boyfriend who did not exist. Daisy pressed her fingertips to her temples and exhaled slowly. She could feel the beginnings of a headache forming, not the kind caused by stress at work, but the kind caused by family expectations wrapped in lace and tradition. She tried to refocus on the sketch, but her mind kept circling back to the same impossible question. How was she supposed to show up to a wedding with a man she'd invented? Daisy? A voice said gently. She blinked and looked up. Ethan Hale stood beside her desk, one hand resting lightly on the partition wall. He wasn't looming or hovering, he never did, but he had a way of being present that made people look up when he entered a room. His dark hair was slightly tousled, like he'd run a hand through it on his way over. His eyes were warm, steady, and quietly amused, as if he already knew she was distracted and was waiting for her to admit it. "You've redrawn the same line 3 times, he said. "And it's still crooked." She glanced down. It was crooked. She hadn't even noticed. "I'm fine," she said a little too quickly. Ethan didn't move. "We've worked together for over 2 years, he said. "I know when something's bothering you." Daisy sighed. She hated how perceptive he was. Most people at work saw her as calm, competent, and unflappable, which she was, but Ethan had a way of seeing past the surface. He didn't push, but he didn't look away either. "It's nothing," she tried again. He raised an eyebrow. She groaned softly. "Fine. Something. But not something I want spread around the office." "Lunch?" he offered. She hesitated, then nodded. They walked to the small cafe across the street, the one with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu that changed every day. Daisy ordered a sandwich she barely tasted. Ethan ordered soup and sat across from her, waiting with the kind of patience that made her feel both grateful and exposed. She took a breath. "My cousin is getting married." "Congratulations to your cousin," he said lightly. "And I'm supposed to bring my boyfriend." He nodded once, slowly. "Okay. I don't have a boyfriend." He nodded again. "Okay." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I told my family I had one." Ethan blinked. "Ah. It was years ago," she said quickly. "They wouldn't stop asking when I was going to get married, and I just snapped. I made someone up, a boyfriend named Sean. It was supposed to be temporary, just something to get them off my back. And it worked. Too well," she muttered. "They loved him. They wanted updates. So I gave them updates. Fake dates, fake anniversaries, fake everything. And now they expect him at the wedding." Ethan's lips twitched. "That's it. That's it," she repeated, incredulous. "You don't know the women in my family. They're going to crucify me." He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "It's not that big of a deal." "Easy for you to say," she muttered. "You're not the one who's going to get drawn and quartered." He laughed, a warm, easy sound that made the corners of his eyes crinkle. "Daisy, look at me." She did. "It's one weekend," he said, "with people who matter to you. I've known you for 2 years. I respect you. If you need help, all you have to do is ask." She stared at him, confused. "Thanks, but I'm not sure you can help me find a fictional boyfriend before the wedding." "When is it?" he asked. 5 weeks, she said. "In my hometown. 6-hour drive." He pulled out his phone. "Dates," she told him. He scrolled for a moment, then smiled. "Problem solved." She blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I'm free that weekend," he said. "I've known you for 2 years, so we're comfortable around each other. The only problem is I have no idea what name I'm supposed to be using." He paused. "Unless you modeled your perfect man after me." He wiggled his eyebrows. Daisy choked on her drink. Ethan burst out laughing, raising both hands. "Kidding. Kidding." She wiped her mouth, glaring at him. "Don't do that. You walked right into it," he said, still grinning. She stared at him. At his easy smirk, his kind eyes, the way he seemed to see past the armor she wore without ever trying to pry it off. "You would really do that for me?" He shrugged. "Why not? Everyone likes a good wedding. They have the best cake. And if this is all it takes to get your mind back on the job, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for the team." She laughed despite herself. The weight on her shoulders eased, just a little. "This might actually work," she said softly. "Of course it will," he said. "We'll make sure your fictional boyfriend is fully prepared." She shook her head. "Men have no idea how hard it is to be a woman. When men get mad, someone gets punched and it's over. Women will torture you for years." He grinned. Then it's a good thing I'm on your side. She exhaled, feeling something inside her settle. If you're sure, thank you. Water is wet, he said with another shrug. When they returned to the office, Daisy's focus had returned. She had 5 weeks to introduce Ethan to the man he was supposed to be, Sean. And for the first time since opening that cream-colored envelope, she felt like she might survive this. Chapter 2, The Man Behind the Fiction. Daisy had never been more aware of the ticking of a clock. It seemed louder than usual, a steady metronome marking the minutes until she had to begin the strangest project of her adult life, turning Ethan Hale into Sean, the fictional boyfriend she'd invented out of desperation and family pressure. She sat at her desk the next morning, staring at her inbox but not really reading anything. The office hummed with its usual background noise, printers whirring, keyboards clacking, quiet conversations drifting from cubicle to cubicle. It was familiar, grounding, and normally enough to settle her nerves. Today, though, her mind kept replaying yesterday's lunch. Ethan offering to help. Ethan joking about being her perfect man. Ethan shrugging like he'd volunteered to water a plant, not accompany her to a wedding under false pretenses. She wasn't sure whether to be grateful or terrified. A soft knock on her cubicle wall made her look up. Ethan stood there holding 2 coffees. I figured you might need fuel, he said, offering one to her. She accepted it, surprised. Thanks. He leaned against the wall, sipping his own. So, when do I get my character briefing? She nearly choked on her first sip. Character briefing? He nodded solemnly. If I'm going to be Sean, I need to know who Sean is. His hopes, his dreams, his favorite ice cream flavor. His tragic backstory. His secret fear of geese. She stared at him. Sean does not have a fear of geese. Noted, he said, tapping an imaginary clipboard. Continue. She set her coffee down, rubbing her forehead. This is ridiculous. Absolutely, he agreed. But here we are. She sighed. Fine. We can talk during lunch. He smiled. Looking forward to meeting myself. They chose a quiet corner table at the cafe, away from the lunch crowd. Daisy pulled out a small notebook she'd grabbed that morning, already regretting everything. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You made notes. I had to, she said defensively. My family remembers everything. If you contradict something I told them 2 years ago, they'll know. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. All right, hit me. She opened the notebook. Your name is Sean. Strong start. You're 30. Older man. I like it. She glared. He grinned. You work in software development, she continued. He blinked. Why software? It sounded safe, she said. Respectable. Something my family wouldn't question. He nodded thoughtfully. Okay, I can work with that. What kind of software? I don't know, she admitted. Apps? Programs? Something with computers. He laughed. That narrows it down. She groaned. This is going to be a disaster. It won't, he said gently. Keep going. She flipped the page. You like hiking? I do like hiking, he said. So that's convenient. You also like cooking. He paused. I burn toast. You can't burn toast at the wedding. I'll try to restrain myself. She pressed her lips together, fighting a smile. You're also very supportive of my career. Well, that part's easy, he said. I actually am. Her cheeks warmed. She looked down at the notebook. And, she said quietly, you're patient and kind. And you don't make me feel like I'm doing something wrong by living my life the way I want. Ethan's expression softened. That's not fiction. She swallowed, suddenly unsure what to do with the warmth spreading through her chest. She cleared her throat and flipped the page. You've met my family once, she said. At a barbecue last summer. What did I think of them? You said they were lively. He laughed. That sounds diplomatic. It was, she said. They were grilling you about when we were going to get married. He winced. Ah, so I've already survived 1 interrogation. Apparently, he nodded. Good to know. Anything else? She hesitated. We've been together for 2.5 years. He blinked. That's a long time. I panicked, she said. They wouldn't stop asking. I needed them to think I was settled. He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Daisy, you know you don't owe them anything, right? I know, she said softly. But it was easier than fighting with them every holiday. He nodded slowly. Okay, then we'll make this work. She exhaled, relieved. Thank you. He tapped the notebook. So what's our origin story? How did we meet? She froze. I didn't think that far ahead. He grinned. Daisy Carpenter, master planner. Shut up. He laughed. All right, let's brainstorm. Did we meet at work? No, she said quickly. If I told them that, they'd assume we were engaged already. Fair point. Coffee shop. Too cliché. Grocery store. She shook her head. My mother would say it's fate. Bookstore. She'd say it's destiny. He leaned back thinking. Okay, how about something simple? We met through friends. She considered it. That could work. Great, he said. Which friend? She hesitated. I don't have many. He shrugged. Then make one up. You've already invented me. She sighed. Fine. My friend, Melissa introduced us. Melissa, he repeated. I like her already. She doesn't exist. Even better. She shook her head, but she couldn't stop the smile tugging at her lips. Ethan watched her for a moment, his expression warm. See? This isn't so bad. It's absurd, she said. Absurd can be fun. She rolled her eyes. You're enjoying this. Of course I am, he said. I get to be your mysterious long-term boyfriend with a stable job and excellent hiking skills. You burn toast. Sean doesn't. She laughed, finally relaxing. Okay, we'll keep working on this. He nodded. We'll make sure your family believes every word. She closed the notebook, feeling steadier than she had all morning. Thank you. Really. He shrugged again, casual and easy. It's what fictional boyfriends are for. Back at the office, Daisy found herself watching Ethan more than usual. The way he listened when people spoke. The way he never rushed anyone. The way he made even the most stressed coworker relax with a single joke. She wondered how she had never noticed how effortlessly he fit into her life. She wondered what else she hadn't noticed. And she wondered, for the first time, whether Sean was the only fiction she'd been telling herself. Chapter 3, Rehearsals and Revelations. By Thursday afternoon, Daisy had accepted that her life had officially become a rehearsal. Not a metaphorical one, a literal rehearsal, complete with scripts, character notes, and a coworker who treated the entire situation like he'd been cast in a romantic comedy he found deeply entertaining. Ethan arrived at her cubicle with 2 coffees again, setting one beside her keyboard without comment. She didn't know when he decided she needed caffeine as part of their arrangement, but she wasn't complaining. You ready? He asked. For what? She said, though she already knew. He tapped the notebook she'd left on her desk. Sean training. She groaned. You're enjoying this way too much. Of course I am, he said. I get to learn all about my fictional self. It's like discovering I have a twin who's more outdoorsy. She rolled her eyes but stood, grabbing the notebook. Fine. Conference room. Lead the way. They chose the smallest conference room, the one with the round table and the slightly crooked whiteboard. Daisy closed the door behind them, feeling oddly conspiratorial. Ethan sat across from her, leaning back in his chair with the relaxed confidence of someone who had never once been intimidated by a family gathering. Okay, she said, flipping open the notebook. We need to go over the timeline. Ah yes, he said. The epic saga of Sean and Daisy. She gave him a look. Please take this seriously. I am, he said, though his eyes sparkled. Continue. She cleared her throat. We met 2.5 years ago through my friend Melissa. Right, he said. Lovely woman. Very supportive of our relationship. She doesn't exist. She exists in my heart. She pressed her fingers to her forehead. Ethan. He laughed softly. Okay. Melissa. 2.5 years. Got it. She flipped the page. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant downtown. He nodded. What did we eat? I don't know, she admitted. I didn't think they'd ask. They will, he said. Families always ask. She sighed. Fine. We shared bruschetta. You ordered chicken piccata. I had ravioli. He nodded approvingly. Solid choices. And you walked me home afterward. Of course I did, he said. I'm a gentleman. She ignored that. Our second date was a hike. He raised an eyebrow. A hike? Already? I panicked, she said. I needed something that sounded wholesome. He laughed. Wholesome, right? Did we hold hands? She hesitated. I might have said yes. He grinned. Look at us. Moving fast. She glared. Do you want to survive this wedding? Absolutely, he said. Please continue. She flipped another page. We celebrated our 1-year anniversary at a cabin in the mountains. He blinked. A cabin? It was romantic, she said defensively. It was fabricated, he corrected. She threw her pen at him. He caught it easily, laughing. Okay, he said. Cabin, mountains, romance. I'll commit. She exhaled, feeling the tension ease. Thank you. He leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. What else? She hesitated. My mother thinks you're very respectful. He nodded. Good. I can do respectful. And my aunt thinks you're shy. He frowned. Shy? I told her you didn't talk much at the barbecue. He blinked. Because I wasn't there. Exactly. He rubbed his forehead. Okay, shy. I can do shy. She studied him. You're not shy. I can pretend. She wasn't sure she believed that. Ethan wasn't loud or flashy, but he wasn't shy. He had a quiet confidence that made people trust him without realizing it. He didn't dominate conversations, but he didn't fade into them either. He simply existed in a way that made space for others. She wondered how her family would react to him. She wondered how he would react to them. Daisy, he said gently. She blinked. Sorry. Thinking. About what? She hesitated. About how ridiculous this all is. He smiled softly. It is ridiculous, but it's also manageable. She looked down at the notebook. I just don't want them to think I lied because I'm ashamed of my life. You're not ashamed, he said. You're independent. You're focused. You know what you want. She swallowed. They don't see it that way. They will, he said. Once they meet me. She laughed. You're very confident. I'm confident in you, he said simply. Her breath caught. She looked away, pretending to adjust the notebook. Okay, she said quietly. We should practice answering questions. He nodded. Hit me. She cleared her throat. Sean, how did you and Daisy meet? He straightened, adopting a softer tone. We met through her friend Melissa. I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time, but Daisy walked into the room and I forgot how to speak. She stared at him. That's not in the notes. He shrugged. It sounded good. It sounded romantic. He smiled. We're supposed to be romantic. She looked down quickly. Okay, next question. What do you like most about Daisy? He didn't hesitate. She knows who she is. Her heart thudded. Ethan, she doesn't pretend, he continued. She doesn't apologize for existing. She listens. She thinks before she speaks. She's steady. And she's funny when she doesn't mean to be. She felt heat rise in her cheeks. That's not part of the script. It's still true, he said. She swallowed hard. Next question. He nodded, though his eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than necessary. She flipped the page. What are your plans for the future? He leaned back, considering. I want to keep working, keep learning, maybe travel more. And I want to be with someone who makes life feel less like a performance. She froze. He didn't look away. Ethan, she said softly. You don't have to. I know, he said. But if I'm going to pretend to be your boyfriend, I might as well be honest about the parts that aren't pretend. She couldn't breathe for a moment. The room felt smaller, warmer, different. She closed the notebook slowly. We should get back to work. He nodded, but his expression didn't change. Whenever you're ready. She stood, feeling unsteady. Thank you for helping me. He smiled, gentle, warm, and impossibly steady. Always. Back at her desk, Daisy tried to focus on her design work, but her mind kept replaying the moment he'd said she didn't pretend. The moment he'd said she made life feel less like a performance. She wasn't sure what that meant. She wasn't sure what she wanted it to mean, but she knew one thing with absolute clarity. This was no longer just a rehearsal. Chapter 4, the 6-hour drive. Daisy woke earlier than usual on Saturday, the morning light barely touching the edges of her apartment. She stood in her kitchen with a mug of tea, staring at the suitcase she'd packed the night before. It looked too small for the amount of anxiety she felt. She wasn't nervous about the wedding itself. She'd survived dozens of family events. But the idea of bringing Ethan into the chaos made her stomach flutter in ways she didn't want to examine too closely. She checked the time. He'd be here soon. Right on cue, a knock sounded at her door. She opened it to find Ethan standing there with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a smile that made everything inside her tighten and loosen at the same time. Morning, he said. Ready for our grand adventure? She stepped aside to let him in. I wouldn't call it an adventure. He looked at her suitcase. You packed light. I don't need much. He nodded, glancing around her apartment with the same quiet curiosity he always carried. He didn't pry, didn't comment, didn't make her feel self-conscious. He simply existed in her space like he belonged there. Car's downstairs, he said. Want me to grab your bag? She hesitated. I can carry it. He smiled. I know, but let me. She handed it over, feeling strangely exposed by the gesture. The drive began in comfortable silence. Daisy watched the city fade behind them, replaced by long stretches of highway and clusters of trees. Ethan adjusted the radio until he found a playlist she liked. She hadn't told him which one, but he'd noticed the album cover on her desk weeks ago. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. He shrugged. I pay attention. She looked out the window, trying to ignore the warmth spreading through her chest. After half an hour, he glanced at her. Nervous, she considered lying, then shook her head. Not exactly, just preparing. For the interrogation? For the performance, she corrected. He chuckled. We've rehearsed enough. You'll be fine. She sighed. You don't know my family. Then tell me, he said. We have 6 hours. She hesitated. They're intense. In what way? She folded her hands in her lap. They love me. They really do. But they also have this idea of what my life should look like. Marriage before 30, kids soon after. A husband who fits their definition of stability. And you don't fit their definition, he said gently. No, she said. I fit mine. He nodded. Good. She looked at him. You really think so? I do, he said. You built a life that works for you. That's more than most people manage. She swallowed. They don't see it that way. They will, he said. Eventually. She wasn't sure she believed that, but his confidence steadied her. 2 hours into the drive, they stopped at a gas station. Daisy stretched her legs while Ethan filled the tank. When he finished, he walked over with 2 bottled waters and a small bag of pretzels. You didn't have to, I know, he said. But you like pretzels. She blinked. How do you know that? You always grab them during late meetings. She stared at him, unsure what to do with the sudden rush of warmth. Thank you. He smiled. You're welcome. They got back on the road. The sky had brightened, the sun warming the dashboard. Daisy felt herself relax, the tension in her shoulders easing as the miles passed. So, Ethan said, tell me something about your family I should know. She sighed. My mother will cry. From joy or panic? Both. He laughed. Noted. My aunts will ask you questions. What kind of questions? The kind that make you wish you were somewhere else. He grinned. I can handle that. And my cousins will stare at you like you're a rare animal. He nodded. I'll wave. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. You're impossible. Only on weekends. She looked at him, studying the way he held the steering wheel, the relaxed curve of his shoulders, the quiet confidence in his posture. He didn't seem nervous at all. If anything, he seemed amused by the entire situation. You're taking this very well, she said. He glanced at her. Why wouldn't I? Most people would run, she said. Or at least hesitate. He shrugged. I like helping you. Her breath caught. She looked away quickly. You don't have to say things like that. I don't say things I don't mean. She didn't respond. She couldn't. 3 hours in, they switched drivers. Daisy took the wheel while Ethan adjusted the seat, stretching his legs. You're a good driver, he said as she merged back onto the highway. I like being in control, she said. I know. She glanced at him. You say that a lot. Because it's true. She focused on the road, but she could feel his gaze lingering on her. Not in a way that made her uncomfortable, in a way that made her feel seen. Tell me something about Sean, he said suddenly. She blinked. What? Something you haven't told me yet. She hesitated. I don't know. I made him up. Then make up something else. She sighed. Fine. Sean likes old movies. Ethan nodded. I can do that. And he's very patient. He smiled. Still easy. And he doesn't get overwhelmed by my family. He laughed. We'll see about that. She smiled. He also listens. Ethan's expression softened. I do. She swallowed. Yes. He leaned back, watching the passing scenery. What about you? What about me? Tell me something I don't know. She hesitated. I don't like surprises. I know. She frowned. How? You flinch every time someone brings you something unexpected. She blinked. I do. He nodded. It's subtle, but it's there. She looked back at the road, unsure how to respond. You notice too much. I notice you, he said quietly. Her heart stumbled. She didn't speak again for several minutes. As they neared her hometown, Daisy felt her nerves return. The familiar roads, the familiar signs, the familiar ache of expectation. It all pressed against her ribs. Ethan noticed immediately. Hey, he said softly. We've got this. She exhaled slowly. I hope so. He reached over, resting his hand lightly on her arm. I'm right here. She didn't look at him. She didn't need to. She felt the steadiness in his touch, the quiet reassurance he carried so effortlessly. Thank you, she whispered. Always, he said. And as they turned onto the street leading to her parents' house, Daisy realized something she hadn't let herself consider before. She wasn't afraid of facing her family. She was afraid of what she was beginning to feel for the man sitting beside her. Chapter 5, The Family Gauntlet. Daisy's parents lived in a 2-story house with blue shutters and a porch swing. Her father had insisted on installing himself. It looked exactly the same as it had when she left for college 10 years earlier. Comforting in theory, suffocating in practice. As she and Ethan pulled into the driveway, Daisy felt her pulse quicken. Ethan noticed immediately. Deep breath, he murmured. She inhaled slowly. I'm fine. You're lying. She exhaled. I'm managing. He smiled. Better. The front door flew open before they even stepped out of the car. Her mother stood there, hands pressed to her cheeks, eyes already shining with tears. Oh my goodness, her mother cried. Daisy. And oh, Sean. Daisy froze. Ethan didn't. He stepped forward with a warm, shy smile, perfectly calibrated to match the persona she'd invented. Mrs. Carpenter, he said gently. It's so nice to finally meet you. Her mother made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a squeal. He's polite, she whispered to Daisy, as if Ethan couldn't hear. And handsome. Oh, Daisy, he's handsome. Daisy wanted to sink into the ground. Her father appeared behind her mother, wiping his hands on a dish towel. Welcome, he said, offering Ethan a firm handshake. Glad you could make it. Thank you, sir, Ethan said. I'm happy to be here. Her father nodded approvingly. Good grip. Good manners. Her mother swatted his arm. Harold, stop evaluating him like he's applying for a job. I'm not evaluating, her father said. I'm observing. Ethan smiled politely, and Daisy felt a wave of relief. He was handling this with the same quiet steadiness he carried everywhere. Inside, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and cinnamon. her mother's attempt to make everything feel welcoming. Daisy barely had time to set her bag down before her mother launched into a flurry of questions. "So, Sean," her mother said, clasping her hands, "what do you do again? Software?" "Yes, ma'am," Ethan said. "I work on application development." Her mother nodded enthusiastically. "Oh, wonderful. My nephew tried to get into computers, but he kept breaking things. You must be very patient." Ethan glanced at Daisy, his eyes warm. "I try to be." Her mother beamed. "Daisy needs someone patient. She's always been so independent." Daisy stiffened. "Mom, it's a compliment," her mother insisted. "You've always known what you wanted." Ethan spoke before Daisy could respond. "That's one of the things I admire most about her." Her mother's eyes widened. "Admire? Harold, did you hear that? He admires her." Her father nodded. "Good. She deserves admiration." Daisy felt her throat tighten. She wasn't used to hearing things like that. Not from her family, and certainly not from Ethan. She looked at him, but he didn't look away. He simply smiled, gentle and steady. Before she could process it, her mother clapped her hands. "Come on, everyone's in the backyard. They've been dying to meet you." Daisy groaned. "Mom, please don't." Too late. Her mother was already leading them through the house. The backyard was full. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, all gathered around picnic tables covered in floral tablecloths. The moment Daisy stepped outside, every head turned. "Oh my gosh, Daisy's here. And she brought him. That's Sean. He's taller than I expected. Look at his shoulders. Look at his smile. Look at Daisy blushing." Daisy wanted to run. Ethan leaned close. "You okay?" "No," she whispered. He smiled. "I've got you." Her Aunt Linda swooped in first, arms wide. "Daisy. And Sean. Oh, sweetheart. It's so good to finally meet you." Ethan offered a shy smile. "It's nice to meet you too." Linda clasped his arm. "Daisy told us you're very supportive of her career." "I am," he said. "She's brilliant." Daisy nearly choked. Linda gasped. "Brilliant. Oh, Harold, did you hear that? He thinks she's brilliant." Her father nodded. "She is." Her cousins gathered next, forming a semicircle around Ethan like he was a rare exhibit. "So," one cousin said, "how did you two meet?" Ethan didn't miss a beat. "Through her friend Melissa." Daisy held her breath. Her cousin nodded. "Oh, right, Melissa. I remember her." Daisy blinked. Melissa didn't exist. Ethan continued smoothly. "She invited me to a small get-together." Daisy walked in, and I forgot what I was saying. Her cousin squealed. "That's so romantic." "Daisy, you didn't tell us that. Did you know right away?" Ethan glanced at Daisy, his expression soft. "Pretty much." Her stomach flipped. Her Aunt Carol stepped forward. "Sean, what do you like most about Daisy?" Daisy's eyes widened. No. Ethan didn't hesitate. "She knows who she is." The backyard fell silent. "She doesn't pretend," he continued. "She doesn't apologize for being herself. She listens. She thinks before she speaks. She's steady. And she's kind." Daisy felt her breath catch. Her chest tightened. Her vision blurred for a moment. Her mother dabbed her eyes. "Oh, sweetheart." Her father nodded approvingly. "Good answer." Daisy wanted to scream, cry, laugh, or run. She wasn't sure which. Ethan looked at her, his expression gentle. Not performative. Not exaggerated. Just honest. She swallowed hard. Dinner was a blur of questions, laughter, and far too much attention. Ethan handled every moment with grace, answering questions without oversharing, deflecting invasive comments with humor, and never once contradicting the fictional history she'd created. At one point, her cousin whispered to Daisy, "He's perfect. How did you get so lucky?" Daisy didn't know how to respond. When the sun began to set, her mother insisted on taking photos. Daisy stood beside Ethan, trying to keep her expression neutral while her mother snapped picture after picture. "Closer," her mother said. "You two look like you're standing at separate bus stops." Ethan chuckled and stepped closer, his arm brushing hers. Daisy felt her pulse spike. Her mother squealed. "Oh, that's adorable." Daisy forced a smile. When the photos were done, Ethan leaned down slightly. "You okay?" She nodded, though she wasn't sure she meant it. "You're very good at this." He smiled softly. "I told you I'd help." She swallowed. "Thank you." His gaze lingered on her for a moment. Anytime. Later, when they finally escaped to the guest room Daisy's mother had prepared, Daisy closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling shakily. Ethan set his bag down. "That went well." She stared at him. "You were incredible." He shrugged lightly. "I just told the truth." Her heart stumbled. "Ethan?" He stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the warmth radiating from him. "Daisy," he said softly. "I'm here. Whatever you need." She swallowed hard. "I don't know what I need." He nodded. "Then we'll figure it out." She looked up at him, her pulse loud in her ears. For the first time, she wondered whether the lie she told her family was becoming something dangerously close to the truth. Chapter 6. The Wedding. Daisy woke to the soft hum of the guest room's ceiling fan and the faint smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the floral wallpaper, the framed photo of her and her sister from high school, and the neatly folded blanket her mother had placed at the foot of the bed. Right. Home. Wedding day. Family Gauntlet Part 2. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. The previous night replayed in fragments, Ethan charming her aunts, her cousins whispering about how perfect he was, her mother crying twice, her father evaluating Ethan like he was interviewing him for a management position, and Ethan, steady through all of it, answering questions with gentle humor and never once contradicting the fictional history she'd created. She wasn't sure how he did it. She wasn't sure how she felt about how easily he did it. A soft knock sounded at the door. Daisy. Ethan's voice. Warm. Quiet. She swallowed. Come in. He opened the door just enough to peek inside. Morning. Your mom made pancakes. I think she's trying to impress me. She is, Daisy said. She's absolutely trying to impress you. He stepped inside, leaning lightly against the doorframe. How are you feeling? She hesitated. Nervous. He nodded. Understandable. She looked at him. You're not nervous. He smiled. I'm not the one whose entire family is about to analyze every interaction we have. She groaned. Don't remind me. He chuckled. Get dressed. I'll save you a pancake. She narrowed her eyes. Don't eat all the chocolate chip ones. He held up a hand. I would never. She didn't believe him for a second. The house was buzzing when she came downstairs. Her mother was already in full hostess mode. Her father was adjusting his tie for the third time, and her aunts were discussing floral arrangements with the intensity of military strategists. Ethan stood near the kitchen counter, holding a plate of pancakes and listening politely as Aunt Linda explained the difference between wedding-appropriate enthusiasm and overly eager enthusiasm. When he saw Daisy, his expression softened. Saved you too, he said, holding up a plate. She took it, trying not to smile too obviously. Thank you. Her mother swooped in. Oh, look at you too. You're adorable. Daisy nearly dropped her fork. Ethan smiled shyly, perfectly in character. Mrs. Carpenter, you're very kind. Her mother dabbed her eyes. He's polite. Harold, did you hear that? He's polite. Her father nodded. Good. Daisy wanted to crawl under the table. The wedding venue was a renovated barn with whitewashed walls, string lights, and rows of wooden chairs arranged beneath a canopy of soft greenery. It was beautiful. Her cousin had always had good taste, but Daisy barely noticed the decor. She was too busy bracing herself for the next wave of attention. As soon as they arrived, her cousins spotted them. There they are. Daisy. Sean. Come here, we need pictures. Daisy groaned. I hate pictures. Ethan leaned close. I'll stand wherever you want. She looked at him, startled by the softness in his voice. Thank you. They were ushered toward a small photo backdrop decorated with roses. Daisy stood stiffly, unsure where to place her hands. Ethan stepped beside her, gently resting his hand at her waist. Not possessive, not performative, just steady. Her pulse jumped. Her cousin snapped photos. Oh my gosh. You two look perfect. Daisy forced a smile. Ethan's hand stayed where it was, warm and grounding. When the photos were done, he stepped back slightly. You okay? She nodded, though her heart was still racing. Yes. He didn't look convinced. The ceremony was lovely vows, soft music, the bride glowing with happiness. Daisy tried to focus, but her mind kept drifting to the man sitting beside her. Ethan watched the ceremony with quiet attention, his hands folded loosely in his lap. He looked calm, content, completely at ease. She wondered how he could be so comfortable in a room full of strangers who believed he was someone he wasn't. She wondered how she could be so comfortable sitting beside him. When the bride and groom kissed, Ethan leaned slightly toward her. You okay? She nodded. Just thinking. About what? She hesitated. About how surreal this all is. He smiled softly. Surreal can be good. She looked away, unsure how to respond. The reception was louder, brighter, and far more chaotic. Daisy's family descended on them immediately. Sean, you must dance with Daisy. Sean, come meet the bride. Sean, tell us about your job. Sean, when are you two? Daisy cut that one off with a glare. Ethan handled everything with the same gentle humor he'd carried all weekend. He danced with her mother, complimented the bride's dress, and answered questions about his software job with vague but convincing detail. Daisy watched him, stunned by how effortlessly he fit into her world. At one point, her Aunt Carol pulled Daisy aside. Sweetheart, she whispered. He adores you. Daisy froze. Aunt Carol? I can see it, Carol insisted. He looks at you like you hung the moon. Daisy's breath caught. It's not. Carol patted her hand. You don't have to explain anything to me. Just let yourself be happy. Daisy stood there, speechless. She didn't know how to respond. She didn't know how to breathe. She didn't know how to stop thinking about the way Ethan's hand had rested at her waist during the photos. Later, when the music slowed and couples drifted onto the dance floor, Ethan approached her. Dance with me? He asked softly. Her heart thudded. Ethan, we don't have to. We do, he said gently. Your family is watching. She swallowed. Right? He held out his hand. She placed hers in his. He guided her onto the dance floor, one hand settling at her waist, the other holding her hand lightly. Daisy felt her breath catch. He wasn't pulling her close, but he wasn't keeping distance either. He held her like she was something fragile and important. They moved slowly, the music soft around them. You're shaking, he murmured. I'm not, she whispered. You are. She looked up at him. His eyes were warm, steady, impossibly gentle. Daisy, he said quietly. I'm right here. She swallowed hard. I know. He didn't look away. For a moment, the world felt small. Just the two of them. The soft music, the warmth of his hand at her waist, and the quiet realization blooming in her chest. She wasn't pretending anymore, and she wasn't sure he was either. Chapter 7, The Aftermath. The morning after the wedding felt strangely quiet. Daisy woke to sunlight filtering through the guest room curtains and the distant clatter of dishes downstairs. Her body felt heavy, not from exhaustion but from the emotional weight of the previous night. The dancing, the questions, the way Ethan's hand had rested at her waist like it belonged there. The way he'd looked at her during the slow song as if the world had narrowed to just the two of them. She sat up slowly, pressing her palms against the mattress. She needed clarity. She needed distance. She needed something she couldn't name. A soft knock sounded at the door. Daisy. Ethan's voice, gentle as always. She swallowed. Come in. He stepped inside, dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans, hair slightly mussed. He looked relaxed, comfortable, completely unaffected by the emotional hurricane she'd been swept into. Your mom made waffles, he said. She said she wants to fuel the young couple. Daisy groaned. I'm going to die. He smiled. I'll protect you. She looked at him, really looked, and felt her stomach twist. He meant it. He always meant it. I'll be down in a minute, she said. He nodded and left, closing the door softly behind him. Daisy exhaled, pressing her hands to her face. She needed to get through breakfast without falling apart. The kitchen was bustling when she arrived. Her mother was flipping waffles with the enthusiasm of someone preparing for a televised cooking competition. Her father sat at the table reading the newspaper, occasionally glancing over the top of it to evaluate Ethan like he was a promising draft pick. Ethan sat at the table already, talking quietly with Aunt Linda, who had arrived early to help. Daisy wasn't sure what she was helping with, but she suspected it involved interrogating Ethan further. When he saw Daisy, Ethan's expression softened. Morning. She nodded, taking the seat beside him. Her mother swooped in immediately, placing a plate piled high with waffles in front of her. Eat, sweetheart, her mother said. You need your strength. For what? Daisy muttered. For life, her mother said, as if it were obvious. Aunt Linda leaned forward. So, Sean, what are your plans now that the wedding is over? Daisy stiffened. Asterisk, oh no. No asterisk. Ethan didn't flinch. Back to work on Monday, he said. And spending time with Daisy. Her mother made a soft, emotional sound. Daisy nearly dropped her fork. Aunt Linda clasped her hands. You two are just darling. Daisy forced a smile. We're managing. Her father lowered the newspaper. Sean, you handled yourself well yesterday. Thank you, sir. You danced with her mother, her father said. That's important. Ethan nodded solemnly. She insisted. Her mother dabbed her eyes. He's so sweet. Daisy wanted to crawl under the table. After breakfast, her cousins arrived to say goodbye before heading home. They swarmed the living room, hugging Daisy and then turning their attention to Ethan with the enthusiasm of people meeting a celebrity. You're perfect for her, one cousin said. You two look so natural together, another added. Are you coming to Thanksgiving? A third asked. Daisy nearly choked. Thanksgiving, her cousin shrugged. Well, yeah, you've been together for years. Ethan smiled politely. We'll see. Daisy stared at him. We'll see? He wasn't supposed to say we'll see. He was supposed to say no or we'll talk about it or I'm not sure. But we'll see sounded like something a real boyfriend would say. Her heart thudded. When her cousins finally left, Daisy escaped to the backyard, needing air. The morning sun warmed the grass, and the quiet felt like a blessing. She sat on the porch steps, inhaling deeply. A moment later, Ethan stepped outside, closing the door behind him. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. I don't know. He sat beside her, leaving just enough space to be respectful but close enough that she felt his presence. Talk to me. She stared at the yard. Last night felt different. He nodded. It did. She swallowed. You were supposed to pretend. I did pretend, he said softly. Mostly. She looked at him sharply. Mostly. He met her gaze without flinching. Some things weren't pretend. Her breath caught. Ethan, I meant what I said, he continued. About admiring you. About how you don't pretend. About how you listen. About how steady you are. Her pulse raced. You didn't have to. I know, he said. But I wanted to. She looked away, heart pounding. This wasn't supposed to get complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated, he said gently. She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. My family thinks we're perfect together. They think that because we work well together, he said. Because we trust each other. She swallowed. Do you trust me? He didn't hesitate. Yes. She closed her eyes. Ethan, I don't know what this is. He leaned forward slightly. Then let's figure it out. She opened her eyes, meeting his steady gaze. I'm scared. I know, he said, but I'm not going anywhere. Her breath trembled. He didn't touch her. He didn't push. He simply sat beside her, offering the same quiet steadiness he always had. And Daisy realized something terrifying and beautiful. She didn't want him to go anywhere. They drove home that afternoon, the car quieter than it had been on the way there. Not tense, just full of unspoken thoughts. Daisy watched the scenery pass, her mind replaying every moment from the weekend. Her family's reactions, Ethan's gentle humor, his hand at her waist, his words, his eyes, his steadiness. Halfway home, Ethan spoke softly. You're quiet. She nodded. Thinking. About us. She swallowed. Yes. He nodded once as if he'd expected that. Take your time. She looked at him, startled. You're not waiting for an answer? He shook his head. I'm not rushing you. She exhaled slowly. Thank you. He smiled. Always. And as the miles rolled by, Daisy realized that the lie she told her family had become something else entirely. Something real. Something fragile. Something she wasn't ready to name but couldn't ignore. Something that felt like the beginning of a truth she hadn't expected. Chapter 8. The truth Daisy didn't expect. By Monday morning, Daisy felt like she'd lived two different lives over the weekend. The one she'd built carefully over years, and the one she'd stepped into with Ethan's steady hand at her back. She walked into the office with her usual calm expression, but inside she felt unsettled, as if her thoughts were a drawer someone had rummaged through. She set her bag down, booted her computer, and tried to focus on the new design brief waiting in her inbox. She stared at the screen for a full minute before realizing she hadn't absorbed a single word. A soft knock tapped against her cubicle wall. Ethan. He leaned against the partition, holding two coffees. Morning. Her pulse jumped. Morning. He set one beside her keyboard. Thought you might need this. She wrapped her hands around the cup, grateful for the warmth. Thank you. He didn't leave. He didn't speak. He simply watched her with that quiet, steady attention she'd come to recognize. The kind that made her feel seen without feeling exposed. You okay? He asked finally. She hesitated. I don't know. He nodded once as if he'd expected that. Want to talk? She glanced around the office. Not here. He smiled softly. Lunch? She exhaled. Lunch. They walked to the cafe across the street, the same one where she'd first told him about her fictional boyfriend. The same table was open, the corner one, tucked away from the noise. Daisy sat, folding her hands on the table, unsure where to begin. Ethan waited, patient as ever. She took a breath. This weekend was a lot. He nodded. It was. My family thinks you're perfect. He smiled. They're very enthusiastic. They think we're perfect together. He didn't look away. Do you think that? Her breath caught. I don't know. He leaned forward slightly. Daisy, I'm not asking to pressure you. I'm asking because I want to understand what you're feeling. She stared at her hands. I'm feeling confused. About me? She swallowed. Yes. He nodded again, slow and steady. Okay. She looked up, meeting his eyes. You were supposed to pretend. I did pretend, he said softly. But not about everything. Her pulse quickened. Ethan, I meant what I said, he continued. About admiring you. About how you don't apologize for being yourself. About how steady you are. About how you listen. She felt her throat tighten. You didn't have to say those things. I didn't say them because I had to, he said. I said them because they're true. She looked away, overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything, he said gently. Just be honest. She exhaled shakily. I'm scared. I know. She looked at him sharply. How? He smiled softly. Because you're careful. You think before you move. You don't jump without knowing where you'll land. She swallowed. And you're not scared? He considered that. I'm not scared of how I feel. Her breath trembled. Ethan. He didn't reach for her. He didn't push. He simply waited. She closed her eyes for a moment, gathering herself. When she opened them, her voice was quiet. I didn't expect any of this. I didn't either, he said. But I'm not sorry it happened. She felt something inside her shift. A small, fragile truth rising to the surface. I liked being with you this weekend, she said softly. His expression warmed. I liked being with you too. She looked down. I liked how you looked at me. He inhaled slowly, as if steadying himself. Daisy, I wasn't acting. Her heart stumbled. She looked up, meeting his eyes. So what now? He leaned forward, voice gentle. Now we stop pretending. She froze. He continued. We don't have to rush anything. We don't have to define everything today. But I don't want to go back to pretending I'm someone you made up. Her breath caught. I don't want that either. He smiled, small, warm, real. Good. She felt her chest loosen, the tension she'd carried for days easing just a little. But my family? Your family will figure it out, he said. They'll see the truth eventually. She laughed softly. They're going to be insufferable. He grinned. Probably. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. You're impossible. Only with you. She looked at him, really looked, and felt something settle inside her. Not certainty, not clarity, but possibility. A beginning. Okay, she said quietly. We'll figure it out. His expression softened. Together. She nodded. Together. Back at the office, Daisy felt lighter. Not calm, not settled, but lighter. Like she'd finally stopped holding her breath. She sat at her desk, opened her design brief, and found she could actually focus. Ethan passed by her cubicle an hour later, pausing just long enough to meet her eyes. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. She felt her lips curve into a small smile. He smiled back, and for the first time since opening that cream-colored envelope, Daisy felt like she wasn't navigating a lie anymore. She was stepping into something real, something she hadn't expected, something she wasn't ready to name yet, but she knew she wanted to. That evening, as she packed her bag to leave, Ethan appeared again, hands in his pockets. Want to walk out together? He asked. She nodded. Yes. They walked side by side through the parking lot, the summer air warm around them. When they reached her car, he paused. Daisy, he said softly. She looked up. He hesitated, just for a moment, then spoke. I'm glad you told me the truth. She swallowed. I'm glad you told me yours. He smiled, gentle and steady. See you tomorrow? She felt her heart lift. Yes. He stepped back, giving her space, but his eyes lingered on her with a warmth she felt all the way to her fingertips. As she drove home, Daisy realized something simple and undeniable. She wasn't scared anymore. She was curious, hopeful, and ready, finally, to see where this truth might lead. Epilogue, a real beginning. Daisy Carpenter had never been more aware of her own heartbeat. It wasn't racing or panicked, just present, steady, like it had finally decided to speak up after years of quiet endurance. She stood outside her parents' house again, this time 3 weeks after the wedding, holding a small overnight bag and listening to the familiar creak of the porch swing swaying in the summer breeze. Ethan stood beside her, hands in his pockets, looking at the house with a calm curiosity that made her chest warm. He wasn't here as Sean. He wasn't here as a fictional boyfriend. He wasn't here as a performance. He was here as himself. And she was here with him. Her mother had insisted they come for dinner. Just a casual evening, she'd said, which Daisy knew meant a full interrogation disguised as hospitality. Daisy had warned Ethan. He'd smiled and said he wasn't worried. She wished she had even half his confidence. You ready? Ethan asked softly. She exhaled. Not even a little. He smiled. We'll be fine. She looked at him, studying the quiet steadiness in his posture, the warmth in his eyes, the way he seemed to exist in her orbit without ever crowding her. You're sure? Yes, he said. Because we're not pretending anymore. Her stomach fluttered. Right? He reached out, brushing his fingers lightly against hers. Not a full handhold, just a touch, a question. She answered by curling her fingers around his. He squeezed gently. Let's go. Her mother opened the door before they could knock. Daisy. Ethan. She pulled them both inside, already talking. I made roast chicken. And potatoes. And I tried that new recipe for lemon bars. Oh, Ethan. You'll love them. Ethan smiled. I'm sure I will. Her mother beamed. Come in, come in. Her father appeared in the hallway, nodding at Ethan with the same evaluating expression he'd worn at the wedding. Good to see you. You too, sir, Ethan said. Her father's eyes softened. Call me Harold. Daisy blinked. Harold? Her father didn't tell anyone to call him Harold. Not even her sister's husband. Her mother ushered them into the living room, where the coffee table was already set with snacks. Daisy sat on the couch, Ethan beside her. Her mother perched on the armchair like a bird ready to take flight. So, her mother said, clasping her hands. How have you two been? Daisy opened her mouth, but Ethan spoke first. Good, he said. Work's been busy. Daisy's team is starting a new project. Her mother lit up. Oh, Daisy, that's wonderful. Daisy stared at him. He hadn't said anything untrue. He hadn't embellished. He hadn't performed. He'd simply answered like someone who knew her. Her mother leaned forward. And you too? You're still? Daisy felt her pulse spike. Mom. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. We're together, he said. For real. Her mother made a soft, emotional sound. Oh, sweetheart. Her father nodded approvingly. Good. Daisy felt her cheeks warm. It's new, she said quickly. We're taking things slow. Her mother waved a hand. Of course, of course. Slow is good. Slow is healthy. Slow is... Harold, stop nodding like that. You look like a bobblehead. Her father stopped nodding. Ethan chuckled softly. Her mother leaned forward again. You know, Daisy, I always knew you'd find someone who understood you. Daisy stiffened. Mom, I'm not saying you needed someone, her mother said. You've always been strong. But I'm glad you found someone who sees you. Daisy swallowed hard. Her mother's voice softened. You deserve that. Ethan glanced at Daisy, his expression gentle. She looked back at him, feeling something warm and fragile settle in her chest. Thank you, Daisy said quietly. Her mother smiled. Now dinner. Dinner was surprisingly calm. Her mother asked questions but not invasive ones. Her father talked about his garden. Ethan listened, answered, and occasionally glanced at Daisy with a small smile that made her heart flutter. At one point, her mother asked, So, Ethan, what do you like most about Daisy now that you're not pretending? Daisy nearly dropped her fork. Mom! Ethan didn't hesitate. The same things I liked before, he said. She's steady. She's thoughtful. She knows who she is. And she doesn't let anyone push her into being someone she's not. Her mother dabbed her eyes. Oh, Harold, he's perfect. Her father nodded. Good grip. Good manners. Daisy groaned. Dad, please stop evaluating him. Her father shrugged. Old habits. Ethan smiled. I don't mind. I've enjoyed getting to know your family. He gave her a grin that looked like any loving boyfriend to her parents, but she knew better. That grin said, in a calm, measured tone, I'm not pretending. Her heart thudded and something inside finally let go. Daisy looked at him, feeling her chest tighten in a way that wasn't uncomfortable, just new. After dinner, they stepped outside to the porch. The sky was streaked with orange and pink, the air warm and soft. Daisy leaned against the railing, exhaling slowly. That went better than I expected, she said. Ethan stood beside her. They care about you. She nodded. Too much sometimes. He smiled. That's not always a bad thing. She looked at him. Thank you. For today. For everything. He shook his head. You don't have to thank me. I do, she said. You didn't have to help me. You didn't have to come to the wedding. You didn't have to be anything you've been. He stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the warmth of him. Daisy, he said softly. I didn't do any of this because I had to. She swallowed. Then why? He held her gaze. Because I wanted to. Her breath caught. He continued, voice gentle. I like being with you. I like who you are. I like how you think. I like how you listen. I like how you don't pretend. She felt her heart flutter. Ethan, he reached out, brushing his fingers lightly against hers. A question, not a demand. She answered by taking his hand. He smiled, warm and steady. This feels right. She nodded. It does. He stepped closer, their hands still intertwined. So let's see where it goes. She exhaled, feeling something inside her settle. Not certainty, not a promise, but a beginning. A real beginning. Okay, she whispered. Let's. He squeezed her hand gently. Together. She smiled. Together. And as the porch swing creaked softly behind them and the sky deepened into twilight, Daisy Carpenter realized something simple and undeniable. She hadn't just survived her family's expectations. She'd found something real. Something steady. Something she hadn't expected. Something she wanted. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't just living the life she'd built. She was letting someone in. Not because she needed him, but because she wanted him. And that made all the difference.